The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was always filled with noise, voices of dozens of species debating, arguing, sometimes even shouting across the vast circular hall. Today, silence fell like a sudden shadow. On the center floor, the human delegation stood. 5 ambassadors dressed in sleek navy suits, Earth's official diplomatic colors, stood still as the Chancellor of the Council asked a simple question. Will the humans respond to the Zenthari resolution? No reply came. Instead, the lead ambassador, Celine Ward, raised her wrist communicator and tapped a button. All 5 humans turned and walked out. Not a word, not a glance, no explanation. The chamber erupted into chaos. The humans are abandoning us. Someone shouted in Threxian. They must know something, hissed a reptilian envoy from the Drath League. Is this an act of war? Asked another voice. Some tried to follow the humans, but security drones blocked them. Within minutes, the Earth delegation had vanished from Concordia Hub, leaving behind confusion, fear, and silence. James Carter stood in a quiet lounge above the council chamber, watching the scene unfold on the holo display. His heart sank. He had served as a human diplomat for nearly a decade. Though retired from official duty, he still worked as a freelance mediator, helping smaller species resolve disputes. He had always believed in the Council's mission, peace through unity. This wasn't peace. This was a retreat, a signal of collapse. His wrist communicator buzzed. A message appeared. They saw what's coming. You need to know. Mean. James stared at the screen. Only one person signed messages with an M. Marcus Talon, a former data analyst in Earth's diplomatic corps, and a friend James hadn't spoken to in 2 years. He read the message again. They saw what's coming. What had Earth seen? Why leave now? And why without a word? James opened a secure channel to Earth's diplomatic command. No response. He tried a secondary line, then another. Nothing. It was as if Earth had shut itself off from the rest of the galaxy. He leaned back, eyes fixed on the swirling stars outside the window. The Council was fragile even with human involvement. Without Earth, it could collapse. War could return. Species that barely tolerated each other would be left without a common voice. James made his decision. He packed a small bag, secured his access codes, and sent a single message to Concordia Command, requesting temporary access to Council affairs. I believe I can help prevent escalation. Within the hour, his shuttle left the station hangar and began its short flight to the Council's central hub. James Carter wasn't sure what he would find, but he knew one thing for certain. The silence from Earth was not just strange. It was dangerous. The Concordia hub hung in space like a giant wheel of glass and steel, orbiting the neutral planet Varellon Prime. It was the heart of galactic diplomacy. Every major civilization in the Council had a seat here. This was where peace had been maintained for 5 decades. Now, it felt like a tower of glass, ready to shatter. James Carter stepped off the shuttle into the station's diplomatic ring. The halls were quieter than usual, and the tension was thick in the air. Alien delegates moved quickly, speaking in hushed voices. Security drones floated along the ceiling in greater numbers than before. He checked into the guest quarters, then made his way to a private meeting room where neutral delegates sometimes gathered. His plan was simple. Ask questions, find answers, and stop panic before it grew into conflict. Inside the room, a few envoys had already gathered. James recognized a few of them. First was Envoy Thularen of the Saren Collective, a tall silver-skinned species with glowing veins under their skin. Thula was calm, logical, and one of the few council members who still trusted humans. Next was Kel Varen, a short, broad-shouldered reptilian from the Drath League, always blunt and quick to suspicion. And finally, standing by the window, was Admiral Kor Vasek of the Threx Dominion. His presence chilled the room. Vasek was tall, armored, and moved like a soldier ready for battle. His dark eyes studied James with cold calculation. So, Vasek said, voice deep and sharp, Earth sends a ghost instead of a message. I'm not here on Earth's behalf, James replied. I came to understand what happened, and to help prevent this from turning into something worse. Too late, Kelveren snapped. Trade routes are closing. Border patrols are doubling. Every species is on edge. Because humans ran, Vesek added. No warning, no reason, just silence. James kept his voice steady. That's why I'm here. I believe Earth had a reason. I intend to find out what it was. Vesek stepped closer. If Earth knew something dangerous, and kept it from us, that's betrayal. And if they left because they've lost faith in the Council, others may follow. Fulla raised a hand. Enough. We need answers, not threats. She turned to James. Where will you start? I received a message, James said. From a former data analyst, he said. They saw what's coming. I don't know what it means yet, but I intend to find out. Vesek laughed softly. One shadow chasing another. You're wasting time. The Council is weak. If Earth is gone, it's time to rebuild it, with strength. James frowned. You mean with weapons? With order, Vesek said. And with power. James said nothing, but he understood now. Vesek wasn't just reacting to Earth's exit, he was planning something. As the meeting ended, Fulla pulled James aside. Be careful, she whispered. Vesek has been preparing for this. He wants control. If you stand in his way, you'll need more than words. James nodded. He had come seeking answers. Now he had a second mission to stop Admiral Vesek, before fear turned into war. He stepped back into the corridor. The lights above flickering briefly. The shadows in the Council were growing. James Carter walked through the lower levels of the Concordia hub, far from the main Council halls. These corridors were quieter, filled with old archives, data centers, and unused diplomatic offices. It was here that Marcus Talon had once worked, before vanishing from the public eye. James had traced the message to a hidden server node in the restricted archives. The access codes still worked. Marcus had clearly left them for him. Inside the room, cold blue lights glowed from data terminals. The air was dry, and the silence was heavy. James sat down at a console and entered the passphrase Marcus had once joked about using: "Hope never sleeps." The screen flickered to life. A message appeared. If you're reading this, then Earth has pulled out. I was part of the team that ran Project Sybil. You need to see what it saw. Miss Talon. James leaned forward. He had heard whispers of Project Sybil during his time as a diplomat, something about predictive algorithms, but no one had ever confirmed its existence. The next file loaded slowly. It showed simulations, thousands of them, predicting future scenarios for the Galactic Council. The system had been designed to forecast threats, war, collapse. In over 80% of the outcomes, the Council fell within 10 years. Resource shortages, border wars, failed diplomacy, rise of military powers like the Threx Dominion. In more than half of those cases, Earth was the first target. Sybil's final recommendation was clear. Withdraw all diplomatic presence immediately. Preserve Earth's independence. Do not share this data. Doing so may accelerate collapse. James sat back in silence. Earth hadn't betrayed the Council. They had followed a machine's warning. But by staying silent, they had created panic and left everyone else in the dark. He downloaded the key data files onto a secure drive. He would have to be careful. If Vesek found out he had this information, things could turn dangerous fast. Just then the terminal buzzed with a second message. Live. Transmission. Unknown source. James opened it. Marcus appeared on screen, his face tired and pale. James, he said, I'm not sure if this will reach you. Sybil was right about most things, but not about you. If there's anyone who can stop what's coming, it's you. Just be careful. Vesek's not waiting. He's making moves. Fast. The screen went black. James sat in the glow of the terminal, heart pounding. He now understood why Earth left, but he also knew something the others didn't. The future was not fixed, and that meant it could still be changed. He stood up, secured the drive, and made his way out of the archives. The council didn't need silence or fear. It needed someone willing to speak the truth. The council chamber was packed. Every seat was filled. Delegates whispered, argued, and watched the center platform where Admiral Kor Vasek stood in full armor. The lights above him cast sharp shadows on his face. His voice echoed across the room. "The council is fractured," Vasek said. "Trade routes are threatened. Borders are violated daily. And the humans who once helped hold this union together are gone." Some nodded. Others remained silent. Vasek continued. "Diplomacy has failed. What we need now is order. What we need is strength." He raised a metal-plated hand. "I propose emergency legislation. Let the Threx Dominion take temporary command of council security. We will patrol the trade zones, guard the peace, and restore control." Murmurs swept through the room. "Temporary," whispered Kelvarin to Thala Ren. Thala narrowed her eyes. "Power given in fear is rarely returned." James Carter sat in the upper gallery, listening. He wasn't an official delegate, but he had been granted observer access. When he saw the shift in the room, he knew Vasek was gaining ground. James stood. "I request permission to speak." The hall fell silent. Vasek turned slowly. "And who are you to speak for Earth now?" "I'm not here for Earth," James said. "I'm here for the truth." The Chancellor hesitated, then nodded. "Proceed." James walked to the center platform. His voice was calm but firm. 3 days ago, Earth's diplomats left this chamber without a word. You all felt betrayed, but they didn't leave out of pride or anger. They left because they saw something they believed would destroy this council. He paused. A project called Cybele. It used millions of data points to predict the future. In most outcomes, this council collapses within 10 years. Earth chose to withdraw to protect itself. The room stirred. Some laughed. Others looked alarmed. "And you believe this?" Vasek asked. James nodded. "I've seen the data, but I don't agree with the conclusion. The future isn't fixed. It's shaped by what we do now." Vasek stepped forward. "So you're telling us Earth ran because of a machine's guesswork, and now you want us to trust that guess?" "No," James said. "I want you to see the danger of handing power to a single military force. If we trade unity for control, we prove Cybele right." Vasek's voice dropped, cold and steady. "Enough. You bring fear, not facts." He turned to the council. "Let the vote begin." The Chancellor raised her hand. "A vote will be held in 24 hours. Delegates may review evidence and cast their decisions tomorrow." The session ended in a storm of whispers. James stepped down from the platform. Thala approached him. "You made them think," she said. "That's more than most have done since Earth left." "I just hope it was enough," James replied. But as he walked through the halls back to his quarters, he couldn't shake the feeling that something worse was coming. He hadn't stopped Vasek. Not yet. The next morning, alarms echoed through the Concordia hub. A trade ship from the Varnak system had been attacked near the Zenthari border. The attackers wore no flags, no markings, but they used Threx pattern weapons. James Carter woke to the alert. His communicator buzzed with urgent updates from council news feeds. One word kept repeating: escalation. Within hours, the Threx Dominion released a statement blaming rogue border factions. But many suspected the truth. Vasek was behind the attack, using it to stir fear before the council's vote. James knew time was running out. He rushed to the secure archive room again. There he met Thala Ren, who had agreed to help him. "You're sure about this?" she asked, as he inserted the data drive. "Yes," James said. "We need proof, not just of Cybele, but of Vasek's manipulation." They searched encrypted transmissions. Thala, skilled in data tracing, followed a hidden signal through the council's relay system. After an hour, they found it a series of messages sent from Vasek's personal network orders to a private fleet stationed near the Zenthari border. One message confirmed the plan. Stage the attack. No trace. Force the vote. James stared at the screen. This is it. He created a false crisis. Fala backed up the data and handed James a second drive. You need to get this to the Chancellor before the vote. I'll alert allies on the floor. As James left the archive, he noticed two Threx security officers watching him from the far end of the hall. He didn't run. He walked fast and stayed calm. But by the time he reached the council floor, more guards were waiting. One stepped forward. James Carter. Admiral Visek has issued an order for your detention. You're accused of disrupting council security. James held up the data drive. Then I suggest you take this to the Chancellor first. If I'm lying, arrest me. If not, this proves a crime far worse. A pause. The lead officer hesitated. Protocol required that evidence be reviewed before an arrest. They escorted James under guard to the Chancellor's office. Inside, Chancellor Mara, an elder from the Luri species, listened carefully as James showed her the intercepted messages and Sabiel's original prediction. When he finished, she sat in silence. Earth left in fear, she said softly. And now Visek is feeding that fear to take control. She looked at the guards. Release him. Prepare an emergency address to the full council. This data must be shown before the vote. James exhaled in relief. But he knew it wasn't over. Visek still had supporters, still had power, and he still had one more move to play. The council chamber was silent again, but this time, it was not the silence of confusion. It was the silence before a storm. Delegates sat tense in their seats as Chancellor Mara stepped onto the central platform. Behind her stood James Carter. This council was built on trust, Mara began. And today, that trust has been broken. She turned to James. You may speak. James stepped forward and activated the holoscreen. It lit up with files from the intercepted messages, clearly marked with Admiral Vesek's command codes. One by one, they showed orders to mobilize Threx ships, stage an attack, and push the council into panic. Gasps and angry whispers spread across the chamber. James spoke calmly. This attack on the Varnak tradeship, it wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. Vesek wanted the council to hand him control. He wanted fear to win. He paused, and he nearly got it. Then he switched the screen to Sybil's forecast. Dozens of simulations appeared. Council collapse. Trade wars. Failed diplomacy. Vesek rising to power in most of them. This is what Earth saw. They believed leaving was the only option, but they were wrong. We still have a choice. If we act with courage, not fear, we can change this future. Vesek suddenly stood. Lies, he shouted. You accuse me with forged data. You trust a machine more than a warrior who has defended peace for 20 years. He stepped onto the floor, eyes locked on James. Yes, I ordered ships to the border. But not for chaos, for control, for order. You fear strength because you have none. Some delegates clapped. Others shouted in protest. James didn't flinch. Strength without truth is tyranny, and peace built on fear will not last. The Chancellor raised her hand. Order. The noise faded. The time for speeches is over, she said. We vote now. Each delegate placed their vote via a secure terminal. The chamber lights dimmed. Moments passed. Then the results appeared in the air above them. Proposal rejected 27-15. Vesek's emergency power denied. Relief flooded through the room. Some delegates embraced. Others sat back in shock. Vesek stood still. His fists clenched. Security officers approached him. Admiral Vesek, the Chancellor said. You are to be detained pending full investigation into conspiracy against the Council. He said nothing, only stared at James. As the guards led him away, James turned back to the chamber. This isn't the end, he said. It's just a chance to rebuild what fear almost destroyed. And for the first time since Earth had gone silent, the chamber felt united. The council chamber was quieter now, not from fear, but from relief. The vote had passed. Admiral Vesek was gone. His plans exposed. The council had stepped back from the edge of war. But the work was far from over. In the days that followed, emergency talks were held. Trade routes were reopened under joint patrols. The Council passed a resolution to increase transparency and limit military influence in future decisions. Trust had been shaken, but not broken. James Carter watched these changes unfold from a private window in the Concordia hub's upper level. The stars beyond looked the same, but everything here had shifted. Something old had cracked, and something new was beginning. A soft chime came from the desk, an encrypted message from Earth. James opened it. James, we've reviewed your findings. The Council has made progress, but our stance remains cautious. For now, Earth will send observers only. No full diplomatic return. We thank you for your service. Unofficial though it was, James read the message twice. There was no warmth, no apology, just strategy and caution. He sighed and closed the message. Later that day, Chancellor Mara met him in the Council garden, a rare place of peace within the station, filled with alien plants from dozens of worlds. You could return to Earth, she said. They owe you. You proved them wrong. James shook his head. They may not be ready to listen yet. But the Council is. Mara smiled. Then stay. We could use a voice like yours. James looked around the garden. The quiet path ahead of him, the growing light of a fragile peace. I'll stay, he said. As long as I'm needed. Before she left, Mara turned to him. You reminded us that unity isn't something we inherit. It's something we build, choice by choice. James nodded. He knew the Council wasn't perfect. Mistakes would be made. Tensions would rise again. But something had changed. Fear had been challenged. Power had been questioned. And most importantly, people had chosen hope. That night, James recorded a message for future mediators, stored in the Council's archive. His final words were simple. Unity is not a gift. It's a decision we make every day. Choose well. He stepped away from the console. The galaxy beyond the window was still vast and uncertain. But now it held a little more light.